Hello, my name is Randy. Thank you for joining me today. Earlier this week, I spoke with several instructors at the Academic Bridge program in Zayed University. I asked them how and why they use multimedia in the classroom. Stick around for a few minutes and watch the videos which are coming up right now. At the end of the videos, I'll briefly discuss some of the dominant themes of those interviews. Enjoy.
My name is Jenny Buchanan. I'm an instructor in the ABP here. I haven't been using video a lot so far because I'm new to ZU. However, in the past I've used it to facilitate like learning in terms of speaking and listening activities, especially with male students. They don't have the issues that female students do, and they really like to be able to hear and see themselves speaking. So certainly for something like pronunciation, or for fluency, or for accuracy practice, or just to kind of focus their attention on it, that's something that I have done in the past. I'm getting there, trying to create some grammar resources on Explain Everything, and I use a lot of the Socrative mini quizzes in the class for both things like spelling or grammar quizzes, but then also for emotive, kind of like affective kind of quizzes to find out what's the mood, what are they thinking, that kind of thing.
Hi, my name is Jeff Davis, and I'm currently teaching Level 5 for the boys here at Zayed University. I'm in my 5th year, and I've used a fair amount of video in the past in classes because I think it's interesting. It's not always the most interesting thing to sit and listen to your teacher show you slides or draw things on the board or have you take notes. So sometimes a well-chosen video can illustrate many things that we study in our reading books. It can illustrate grammar points, and I find it a lot more interesting. I also like to see students engage their creative sides, and sometimes it's great for them to make a video which might tell a story, which might be humorous, which might tie right back to something that we've been reading or studying. So in my view, the use of video creation, the use of existing videos, is a way to enhance student involvement and participation.
My name is Laura Blackwell, and I'm a teacher at Zayed University. I teach Level 8, and we use multimedia in the classroom now and again. I have a lot of students who are very interested in making films, so quite often they like to make short films, and they also use these films in the film club which they've just set up, so we do tend to use them in the classroom. Sometimes we look at YouTube clips, and it's quite often to highlight something that we've been looking at in class, but sometimes it's just nice to have a break and look at something funny as well to break up the lesson. But in general, the students tend to enjoy making movies the most, and they like to show those movies because it's something that they can connect with their hobbies and in their free time as well.
My name is Bernadette Rundle. I've been working here at Zayed University, Abu Dhabi, for 13 years.
Hi, my name is Sarah Suleimanova, and I've just recently joined the Academic Bridge program at Zayed University.
Well, I must confess that I don't use it very much. I have used it at the higher levels of our program, that is 7 and 8, level 7 and 8. Clips from YouTube, for example. I think once we were talking about the Green Bank in India, and I had interviews I found some interviews on YouTube with women who've been involved in that. Other than that, I've used ones only that have been specifically for educational purposes that come as part of the course, rather than so. In other words, I haven't done much independent searching for videos online, or Googled them or anything like that.
Okay, I primarily use it at the moment with my low class for the iPad project. They've started using them from this year, so all the training lessons are on, so they are like little clips. So we watch them and then I ask them whether they've understood, and then we go over it, and then they actually do like if it's about the keynote, they start doing it in the class. With the higher levels, I've used a lot of YouTube clips as listening, and also as speaking, so they watch a video and then they talk about it. That's as far as I remember at the moment. I think it's an authentic material, especially if you're using one on YouTube, rather than the one that we have like for training.
I think the topicality of the stuff on YouTube and the level of interest that it can engender in students is one of the main reasons. Also, they tend to be a good length for teaching, you know, they don't drag on and on and on. They're spontaneous very often, so they're not, you know, some of them, ones that are educational ones, are very planned, if I can say. I mean, they're meant to be, of course, but at the same time, it's nice to have something that's not, so that the individuality of the ones on YouTube, and as I say, the spontaneity is the pluses, are the pluses for me.
Yes, and especially as a language teachers, we meant to be using authentic materials, and especially if they're exposed to TV and media, which is not aimed at lower levels or at learners, so using TV programs or YouTube rather than the ones that come with the coursebook is a very good training thing for them.
Yes, all sorts of things. I mean, different accents, people who speak English not at native speaker level, that's always good for them. You know, they can see what is possible within the limits of their own language. What do you call it? Can't remember the word that I want. The language that they have is what I mean.
Yes.
My name is Jay Bedell. I'm an instructor at Zayed University. I've been teaching here for 11 years now. One of the issues with multimedia is that you need materials that are appropriate to the level of the students, and so that's sometimes a challenge. I usually teach lower level students in the English program, and so a lot of the multimedia materials that are available on the web, let's say through YouTube, are not really appropriate from a level point of view. And then again, there's the issue of cultural appropriacy. A teacher was telling me how she was teaching a colloquy class about Homer's Iliad, and she had a lot of trouble finding an appropriate kind of video or something from YouTube that didn't have some body part that's you're not allowed to show in the classroom. And so that's certainly one of the challenges. Yeah, cultural appropriacy and just finding things. A lot of, obviously, things that are available on the web are created by native speakers or high-level English users, and as a result, have to be careful that that students can understand it. Saying that, at Zayed University, they've given me a chance to create a lot of multimedia materials, especially to teach grammar, to put grammar in context, and so we've made some movies, and obviously you're able to tailor that to the culture and to the level a lot better.
Jay, you made a good point about trying to find level-appropriate materials for students. What do you suggest to teachers who don't have the opportunity to, let's say, create original materials as you have? Do you have any suggestions for teachers who have low-level students but want to find authentic video content?
Well, I mean, depending on what kind of technology they have available, I'll just mention our situation now. Students each have iPads now, and so I've been taking slow steps towards them creating their own multimedia content, and then helping them with editing on iMovie and things like that, and then presenting it to other students. And so that's one way around it. I haven't done a lot of search. I can't name any websites off the top of my head, but there are some like the British Council or the BBC that do have a little better level appropriate materials that are geared towards English language learners. So I guess what I'm talking about, so with YouTube you have to be careful about using it, but there are websites out there that do have some multimedia materials available for lower level English learners, and I think with the spread of technology and students getting their hands on technology and teachers getting their hands on technology, that more and more will be put up there, and I hope there's a lot more sharing that'll go on as a result.
Jay, you mentioned students creating their own content, video content. How's that going so far? How do the students respond to it?
Yeah, I think they enjoy it. There are some issues again about even male students not being thrilled about the idea of being filmed, which I was a little surprised about. But most of them are fine. If it gets them outside of the class, they're quite happy. And it does add a sort of a different side to an English language class that they're not used to. This idea that they can create materials fairly easily, let's say through the iPad, and then present it to students and present it to me. So I've done only a couple of projects so far, and you know, with the editing, it's step by step. It's a little slow. The principles of film editing, obviously, you know, it's not just cut. You have to try to get them to think about how to do it. But they're quite eager to learn, and they're quite interested. It's one of those times when I'm sort of showing them that, or they're doing them that, when they are really interested and they're not doing other things like playing with their phones. And so, yeah, I think it has a lot of potential, and I look forward to exploiting it even more. I mean, for example, I sent them off one time to interview one person at ZU who is working, and interview them about their jobs. And they came back after about 30 minutes, and they had a short video, and basically we worked a little on cutting off the beginning or the end and stuff like that.
Using iMovie?
Using iMovie, yes.
How do you find working with iMovie?
Yeah, I mean, as long as the teacher has a solid grounding, sometimes some students know how to use it, but it's not too bad. Sometimes, you know, knowing when to sort of tap and when to move it. But obviously, it's a lot easier to use than, say, the iMovie program on the laptop. It doesn't have the same full functionality, but I think it's very capable as a basic editing tool. And again, I sort of one thing I really like to use in the future a little more is the trailer function on iMovie. And it's not so much. It's interesting. It doesn't allow for speaking within the trailer function, but I think it's a good writing activity, because you can write sort of introductions to sort of parts of the trailer, and then you can also write sort of a description of the trailer, and then go out and shoot it. So, yeah, and the results, because of the way that Apple has scaffolded the whole creation experience, the results are always good, you know, just because the music's integrated and the way the scenes flow. Yeah, so I think this is something students will be very interested in using as well.
To what extent, last question, to what extent do you think that the this kind of technology like the iPad can work towards achieving learning objectives?
I think that's one thing that we have to keep our eyes on. It's a good idea. It's fun for the students, and it's easy for the teacher sometimes for us to sort of give them something to do with the iPad. But sometimes not a lot of language is produced, not a lot of language is used in producing it. And so this is something that we have to think in terms of task design, integrating those kinds of objectives. You know, we might say, for example, go and do an iMovie, but how much English are they actually doing when they're creating this and when they're presenting it? So I think we either have to make the task such that language is necessary to perform it, or make the task such that language is necessary for presenting or following up on the task that they're doing. For example, reflecting on how they did the task and how they might have done it better in English.
Hi, welcome back. Well, thank you for joining me again. I hope that you found those interviews of some interest, where I asked colleagues of mine here at the Academic Bridge program at Zayed University to share their thoughts on using multimedia in the classroom. I thought it would be interesting to spend a couple minutes framing their answers within the context of a technology integration model, which is called the SAMR model by Puente Duro 2006. So SAMR obviously is an acronym for substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. Basically, it can be divided into, these four phases can be divided into two categories. At the bottom you have enhancement. That's where you're using technology as a tool to either directly substitute or slightly improve traditional instruction. At the higher end, you have transformation, which is modification and redefinition. So that would be using technology in ways that were to achieve things in class that are just not possible without technology. And at the highest level, you have redefinition, which is generally having students use technology to be creative or connect with other people. So this model draws upon some ideas that you're already familiar with. One is 21st century learning, which has gotten a lot of coverage in the press recently. Another is the TPAC model, which actually we studied in this class, being a framework that views technology integration as the nexus between the nexus of pedagogy, content, and technology, knowledge, teachers' knowledge. And finally, there's some ideas that came from the Horizon Project, which takes a broader view of important cultural, social, and developmental aspects of humans stretching back to the beginning of civilization, really, and yet those are still very applicable today. So going back more specifically to the interviews with my colleagues, we heard examples of both substitution and augmentation, where they mentioned that they use videos in the class to break up class routine or supplement the textbook or to try to motivate the students. We also heard at least one teacher talk about finding subjects that are relevant to what they might be studying, and other benefits such as authenticity of language, which of course is important for our language learners. We also heard some examples of modification and redefinition. Now this would be where the instructors talked about having their students, for example, create movies using their iPad, using the video camera on their iPad, and then editing it with iMovie. And we heard some of the same reasons why they do this. For example, motivation, supplementing what they do in the class, try to provide something a bit different. But we also heard them mention the development of creativity, for example, critical thinking. These are some aspects of multimedia that are mentioned in our textbook, for example. So these would be examples more of modification and redefinition. We heard one instructor at the end there, Jay, who's done quite a bit with technology. He talked about, though, one of the challenges, and of course all the teachers are familiar with this, is finding appropriate level or cultural content, which is definitely an issue here in the UAE in terms of cultural content that's appropriate, because there are more restrictions in society compared to the West. And for level, a lot of our students are very low level, so it's a challenge to find authentic video text that is not only the right content, but the language content is not too far above them. So anyway, these are some ways that our instructors use technology here, multimedia in their teaching. I hope that was of interest to you, and see you next time.